Episode 225, A Creative Approach to Flourishing with Jill Pack.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
In this heartfelt and deeply reflective episode, Coach Jill Pack introduces a powerful exercise called Building My House, a metaphorical journaling and self-awareness tool that helps individuals better understand themselves, their values, and how they relate to others. As a midlife women's coach and host of the Seasons of Joy podcast, Jill shares how this framework has helped women from all walks of life flourish by identifying what truly matters most to them. Please enjoy.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches today, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am joined today by Coach Jill Pack. Hey, Jill, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you for being here. I always love having conversations with Jill. And you guys have, if you've been longtime listeners, you've heard podcast episodes with me and Jill before. If you're new, you're going to just love listening to Jill. But for Jill, for people who haven't heard us chat before, can you tell people a little bit about you?
Yeah, my name is Jill Pack. I live in Cache Valley, Utah. I've been a coach since 2021, the fall of 2021, and I coach women in the midlife, women of faith who are navigating that new transition of this next phase of life and show them how to create a joyful life. And anyway, so I work with women and help them do that.
I love it. I kind of your slogan or your pitch is seasons coaching, right? Do I have that right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think of you often because I am in a stage right now, like I am shifting seasons. My baby is a senior and graduating here in a couple months. And I don't know what I just kind of like, this is just going to be a new season. This is just a new season. And I think of you every time I think of that. So thank
Love
you.
that. I love that. It's so funny when I decided to be a coach, which I didn't really want to be a coach. It just kind of happened that way.
Yeah.
But
You and me both.
when I finally admitted to myself that I wanted to be a coach, I just knew right away that was going to be my name, Seasons Coaching. Like it just always was there because I could just see as I looked back at my life and the different seasons that we go through, each season has its beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And each season has its challenges, just like in the seasons of nature, right? There's things we love about the seasons. There's things we hate about the seasons, but they come every year. And so I think when we can kind of embrace that idea, like this is a season, it's not forever. And we can do this. We can make it a beautiful season. So yeah.
You know, what's coming to my mind right now is we're kind of in the shift. When this podcast airs, we'll be in spring, but we're right now when we're recording, we're on the cusp of like winter and spring. And I always think I would really be sad to live in a place without seasons. I live in Idaho. You're in Cache Valley. Our seasons are very similar because I love all four seasons. And so when you're saying that, it's making me think, you know, like I can find that same joy in all the seasons too. I think sometimes there's sadness. There's always sadness when we shift from one. Well, okay, maybe I'm not too sad when we go from spring to summer. I'm usually pretty happy for summer to come around, but
Right.
I think I need to take that into my own life, into the different seasons and recognize that I'm loving all of these seasons and it's okay. Yeah, that sometimes there's some sadness, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and I think it helps in our life because when we can realize that there's beauty and hard in all of it,
Mm-hmm.
like we can just be there for all of it. And that contrast of seasons is actually what makes life rich and beautiful. Like if every day was the same, I don't know, when you're on a beach and you're in the sun, maybe you would disagree, right? But I just think that contrast of life is what makes it rich and full. And that's That's where the beauty is in the contrast, I think.
Well, thank you for teaching that to me and modeling that for other people and helping other people find that as well in their lives,
Oh,
because I think it's brilliant and we all need that help. So,
awesome.
all right, Jill, we have some fun things we're going to talk about
Yeah.
today. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited. I always am excited, but to talk stuff through with people. I always think it's really a good thing that this is what I get to do, because there's not like people in my everyday life don't want to just sit down and have these kind of conversations with me.
I know. It's like coach friends are some of the best friends because we get to just geek out on some of this stuff that other people are like, okay,
Uh-huh.
whatever. Can really
I know.
guide this.
So anyway, thank you for being one of my friends and having this sort of conversation with me, because this is what I love. So where are we
Yes.
going to go today? What do we want to talk
Okay.
about?
So I thought it would be fun. I do a workshop called from floundering to flourishing. Sorry, you got that wrong. We do not want to flourish to flounder, but it was built on this idea of, how to flourish in our life. But how it came to be was I was asked to do a presentation at a medical office. And one of the struggles that they have is just it's a high stress place. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of beliefs about other people. And sometimes in those settings, and I think this is applicable in just everyday life. We have all kinds of stresses, but I think what happens when life is the hardest, we have a tendency or the temptation, I guess, to view people as not people. I think when we're really struggling, we've lost sight that we're actually interacting with another person, not an it. And the Arbiter Institute, I love, and they talk about it's a lot about peace building, and they have this concept called I, it, and I, thou. And basically, that premise is we're either viewing people as people or people as it's. And I think we will all notice in our life when we're treating people as it's, things don't go very well. But when we can see people, as human beings, we have a lot better chance of navigating whatever struggle we have, because we can see the human in both of us, right? We put a lot of expectations on people when we start seeing them not as people. And so going into this setting, I was trying to figure out, like, how do I help people? Like, I can teach them all day about thoughts and feelings and creating results, but if they aren't clear on even where they are in relation to other people, it's a lot harder. And so I was talking to a friend one day, like just trying to get her feedback on, like, how would you approach this? She's in education, and she said, there's this exercise, and I wish I could give it credit to whoever made this up. I don't know who did. But she called it building my house. It was an exercise. And I use this exercise to help people kind of begin to see people as people. And then we can actually begin flourishing. But we have to start by building our house. So what I'm going to do is have a worksheet that you can include with this podcast where people can reflect on this for themselves and start to look at what are they building their house on. And so I did this exercise with this group of people. And the first thing is I had them draw a house on their piece of paper, and it needed to have a foundation, walls, a window, a door, a roof, and a chimney. So they sketched it out on their little 3x5 card. And then I proceeded to ask them a few questions in the building of their house. So the first question was, what is that concept or idea by which you rule your life? And a lot of times as coaches, we do this with clients, like, what are your values, right? What are those values that guide you through your life? And so they spent a minute thinking about what is that one concept that really is kind of like that hinge piece that everything else builds on. What's that foundation? And then I asked them to think about their walls. What are those methods by which you support and strengthen that foundation, that idea? What are those actions that you take on a daily basis? What habits do you have in place to help you kind of live from that place? Right? That's our structure. That's a framework. And then I asked them to look at their roof and consider, what are those protective mechanisms? They can be healthy or unhealthy, right? What are those things? What are those mechanisms that you have, that you use to protect yourself? What are those things that you have in place that protect you as you live, do those actions and kind of live from that foundation? And then in your window, you write something of which you are proud, that you want other people to see, right? If they looked into your house, what would they see and what would you be proud of? Like, what would you celebrate about you? And then the door would be an important part of you, which you've borrowed from someone else. And who is that person? Sometimes I think when we look at that, it could be maybe things that you've borrowed that you don't really like, that you've uncovered, right? But maybe it's those really good things that you're like, this thing really does help me live in alignment with who I want to be. And I've borrowed it from this person.
So do you have them just pick one thing? So I'm sitting here drafting this as you're talking.
Yes, I think you could write as many as you wanted.
But
I think
per
it
house,
matters.
okay, I just was curious.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. For this exercise, it was like pick one thing.
Yeah.
But what a great exercise
Yeah.
to really look at, what are those things I've borrowed from other people that I'm so glad I have,
Yeah.
that have helped me. They've influenced me in such a beautiful way. Right.
My house isn't very cute, by the way.
I
can't draw houses.
They are basic. They're so basic. And then finally, we end with the chimney, right? Mm-hmm. What are those things that you do or forms of release that you commonly use to kind of help you regulate your house, right? How do we let steam off? How do we take care of ourselves? What ways do we release the pressure that sometimes we can find within the walls of our house, right? And so we did this exercise, and you think about it, and it's like a lot of good reflective questions, but here is where the magic happened in this exercise. Was they finished this up, and then I put them into groups of like maybe 4. It was a setting of maybe like 40 people, and so each group had 4 to 6 people, and then they each had 1 minute, and I would set a timer, and they picked who was going to go first, and they would spend 1 minute talking about their house. They shared about their foundation and their door and their window and their walls and their roof and their chimney. And they just had 1 minute, and they could talk about whatever, all of the pieces, one of the piece, like they just were sharing about their individual house. And then the timer would go off and the next person would do it. And we repeated this, 5, 6 times because of the number of people in the group. And then we all sat back down and we took a minute to find some takeaways. And this was the coolest thing. So I asked that, what did you learn from this experience? And mostly I heard was, we actually have a lot of similarities. We actually are a lot more alike than we are different. Or it was so good to know that this is important to them, or whatever. Like, it just was such a good awareness about your own house that you're trying to build, but also recognizing everybody is trying to build their house. Mm-hmm. And when we can do that, we can begin to see people as people, so that when we get into these challenging situations, we can view them as people, because we've had these conversations, we've had this experience where, yeah, we know that this is what they value and this is important to them. And this is a moment in time where maybe they behave differently because of stress, right? It gives us more empathy, more compassion as we interact with each other. And so I just loved that exercise. It was such a powerful one. And we kind of moved through some other concepts, but as I was thinking about this house and just geeking out on it, like, how can I apply this in different,
Yeah.
right? And the thing I came up with is, most of us in this directory understand what the model is, CTFAR. We know that we have circumstances and our thoughts about those circumstances, which create how we feel, which fuel how we show up in the world, which creates our life experience, right? We know that.
Right.
We also know there's nuances to that, like our nervous system and what Amy Gianni has taught me, our context filter, those things through the lens through which we see our life kind of affects our experience, right?
Right.
But as I was thinking about this, I thought our house really is our inner world, right? Like that house we built is the things that are going on inside of us. And our foundation is those thoughts and beliefs that we have. And so instead of like viewing the model as top down, I flipped it and said, what if it's bottom up? What if the foundation, our thoughts and feelings, the foundation builds our life experience?
Mm-hmm.
That we once we can identify the thing we want to build our life on, what can we really create? And so I did it the reverse. Our foundation is the thoughts, which then we add the structure of our emotions and our behaviors, and then our experience. And so I have this picture, and then I have this context filter. So like there's this little house built on all these components, right?
Right.
But then there's this filter, and then we have our outer world, which is all these other people's houses.
Yeah.
And we have all these houses in our neighborhood. We build our house, but then we move into a neighborhood. And we're viewing everybody else's house through this context filter. But if we can take the time to recognize the way we're viewing our house, what's important to our house, and how that affects our ability to see other people's houses and what they're building, I think that helps us interact with each other. It gives us more compassion and awareness, but we have to start with our house first.
Mm-hmm.
And then understanding how that affects the way we view other people. So I don't even know if that makes sense, but I just was so excited about it.
It totally does. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, if I was to move into a neighborhood with houses that looked, or anytime I drive into a neighborhood and all the houses look the same, I'm always like, oh, I wouldn't want to live here. Like everything's the
So
same.
boring.
It would be so boring. And how would you know whose house was whose? And anyway, how thankful we are that we all are so different. We get really frustrated because we wish that people were just like us and viewed things exactly like we do, but actually we don't. We want people to have different opinions. We want the world to look different. And I think that offers us just even like that analogy, like looking at homes at your house offers us so much compassion, like you said, for other people and the challenges they might be going through, and recognizing that they're human, like you said. I had somebody tell me once, and I wish that I could credit whoever I heard this from, because it was on something and my brain can't remember anything anymore. It's season of my life. I'll blame it on that.
Yes, totally.
But they said, when you're talking to somebody, if you can just like imagine what their hopes and dreams are, like that. And when I can do that, it shifts a conversation that I'm having with someone. It turns them from being someone that I'm just listening to or talking to or getting annoyed with, whatever the circumstance might be, to like, oh, this is actually a human being that like has hopes and dreams. I have no idea what they are sometimes, but just wondering what they are can offer me so much compassion.
Yeah. And I think that there's also Marshall Rosenberg. I think that he did the nonviolent communication. And he talks about how our behaviors and stuff, the way we showing up is trying to meet a need. It always comes down to trying to meet a need of some kind. And I think that really ties into this, because somebody's house right? They behave and act a way that is trying to protect
Mm-hmm.
their foundation, if you will. And so maybe the way they're showing up isn't making sense, but if we get to know them, we'll have a better understanding of what they're trying to build their house on, what their foundation is. But we got to start with our house first.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And I was, when I was writing about this and I was thinking about houses, I thought, when we're flourishing, when we're living this, like we're thriving in our life, we're like this well-built home. We're secure in the foundation of our values. But you think about the walls, there's given those. They move. Walls, they're sturdy, but there is built into them a natural flexibility because of things. And so sometimes we adapt to change, and we have different rooms for different purposes, and we create spaces within ourself and our life because of for all of our experiences, right? We have different houses that serve different purposes, whether it's joy or times of challenge. But this house isn't about perfection. It's about building a space that's sturdy and welcoming, a place where we can grow, but stay grounded. Right. And then I just loved this idea of like, as we build this house on our values and take action from that place and build this inner groundedness, it's so much easier to move into neighborhoods with different houses that look different, that are bigger or smaller, or, just build out of different materials. But this was just really an eye-opening exercise where when we take the time to understand our house and then take the time to understand other people's houses, we're going to have a lot better relationship with those people in our life. We're going to begin seeing them as people, not things.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious with I use this phrase frequently with clients, but it's like, I'll say, we're just going to crack the door. Like, even just starting to believe this, maybe questioning, we're just going to kind of crack the door, and it'll be pretty fascinating what happens when you just open that door just a little bit to maybe believing something differently.
Yeah.
And this analogy is ringing really true to me in that as well, because even in our own houses, so to speak, that you're speaking of, that we build, just cracking the doors open just a little bit. And I think in your analogy, the door is things that you've borrowed from other people, important things you've borrowed, whether they're like good or bad things that you've borrowed.
Yeah.
But it's the same, right? If we can just crack that door open just a little bit, we allow new learning and new possibilities. And anyway, I don't know. I just
so
think
true.
about
Well,
that.
and like we were talking before this started, right? You're building a cabin, and at a decision like, are we going to add on, or are we going to just start over?
Yeah.
I think there's times in our life, seasons in our life, when we really get down to the studs.
Yeah.
And we're like, what is my foundation? What is that idea or value that I've been basing my life on up to this point? And is it helping me build the house I want? Or is it time to start over? Or maybe my foundation's there, but maybe the things I have in place that are the habits or rituals that I have thought supported that value, maybe they don't anymore in this new season. Maybe it's time to go down the studs and re-sheetrock or knock out a wall, right? Like what is it in our house that maybe we do need to crack a door and just air it out, and like, is this still important to me? And then, taking the time to celebrate the things we love about ourselves and that we want to share with other people. And maybe what we thought was important that we wanted people to see, is that really it? Or is it because we want people's approval, right? What is it that we really want in our window? And then, like, is it time to replace our door? Right? Or just add some more doors. I don't know.
Yeah. I can see this being such a fun journaling exercise to do,
Yes.
even like repeatedly, right? Not just once,
Yes.
but like,
Oh,
I don't know,
yeah.
frequently. And anyway,
Yes.
I'm kind of excited by that,
Yeah.
by the possibility
It's
of,
so good. Yeah, it was such a fun exercise, and it was fun to hear like people share some of these things. But before I did this, I did it with my friend's daughter, who is a senior in high school, and it was interesting to see her answers in a younger season, like a newer season, right?
Mhm.
And what was important to her. And one of the things that I just love that I took away from her was when I asked her what she wanted in her window and what was she proud of, and she says, I'm just so proud of how I've grown. I want people to see how much I've grown and matured. And again, not from this like place of look
Yeah.
at me, but just like look what I've done, how far I've come. And I think that's the fun part of it too, is whatever season you're in, and maybe multiple times in the same season, right? Like we're going to respond differently depending on what's going on in our life. But I think it's an exercise definitely worth repeating
Yeah.
multiple times. Yeah.
There's so much value in evaluating our life experience
Mm-hmm.
frequently. And I think journaling has always kind of been something that we've been encouraged to do in our religious culture. And the older I get, the more wisdom I see in that encouragement, because
Yeah.
there's so much that I'm able to process and learn about myself through journaling and evaluating through that process. So anyway, I just think this is fantastic. I love it. This
Yeah.
is such a fun idea.
Yeah. It was fun. Like I said, I wish I could attribute it to somebody, but it really made me think as we reflect on this coaching journey that we're on, could we flip it on its head a little bit and start looking at building up instead of
Mhm.
filtering down? Like
Yeah.
creating, to me, building up is a creation process. And so
Which we're all meant to create, right? We're all
yeah,
creators. We're
yeah,
created in our heavenly parents' image, and they're creators, therefore so are we.
yeah,
And what if really like I mean, it is the whole point of us being here is to create something amazing with ourselves, right? It's already
yeah.
all in there. It's just discovering it and bringing it out.
Yeah, and how to do it. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've listen to Mel Robbins' new book, the
I'm
Let Them
listening to it
Theory.
right now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
I know
I
it's so
love it
good.
so much. But I'm in this section where she's talking about the hand that we're dealt,
Hmm.
right? Everybody's cards are different. Like, and sometimes we think, I got a bad hand, or they got a better hand, or that's not fair. Kind of
I
that.
love it. And she'll just say it's not fair. That I'm
Fair.
in the exact same part.
Yes. As soon as you realize that, there's
Yeah.
so many other options available to you, right?
Yeah.
And I love what she said about it's how you play those cards. And that's just another way of saying it's what you create with what you have.
Yep.
Right? It's being creative about playing your hand in a beautiful and uniquely yours way. Like you're just, yeah. So
Yeah.
we never know what we're going to be dealt. We don't know what life's going to look like, but we know we're meant to use whatever comes to make something beautiful out of.
Yep. Absolutely.
So,
Well, Jill, thank you. I did a podcast recording not too long ago with Leah Davidson. She trains coaches on helping people with their neurological systems. Gosh, my
yeah,
brain is. And we talked about doodling, like artwork, how artwork can help with processing, emotions and our nervous systems and regulating our nervous systems. And so I've been trying to like doodle and draw a little bit more in my
yeah,
journaling. And so this to
yeah.
me feels like it fits
Oh,
really
perfect.
well with
Yeah.
that.
You,
Um,
your viewers aren't, or your listeners aren't going to see it, but this is
oh,
my doodle, right?
I
This is what
love
it
it.
looked like when I passed this out. They all drew their house, and this is what people's looked like. And I think you're right. I just think it just expands our perspective
Yeah.
in such a beautiful way to put it on paper and draw and
Yep.
write. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
good.
if you're watching it on YouTube, then you were able to see that because
Okay,
this
good.
go on YouTube. But I think this would be a great like piggyback this episode with listening to Leah's. And I think that
Yeah.
there's some value in just the drawing of the home as well as then adding your thoughts to it. So I think we're onto
Yeah.
something here. I think you're
Yeah.
onto something here. I think it's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think it is because you just now, when I think about like what my foundation is, like the house shows up in my brain
Yeah.
where before it felt a little more abstract, but this feels more like my brain makes sense of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Well, awesome. Thank you. I love
okay.
it.
You're so
Hopefully,
welcome.
I
Thanks.
will let everybody needs to pull out their markers and their crayons and just get to town
Yes.
on drawing a fun
Start
house.
drawing.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, Jill,
Awesome.
before we leave, can you share with people how they can connect with you?
Yeah, you can visit me at my website, www.seasons-coaching.com. And I have a podcast as well called Seasons of Joy. I actually have an episode where I talk about building my house as well. Anyway, so yeah, they can find
Love
me
it.
there, social
Okay,
media,
we'll
all
link
the
to it all in
things.
the show notes. And you referenced something that you will provide for the people who are listening. So
Yes.
we'll link to that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for being with me
Yeah.
today.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yep. We'll see you next time, everybody. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.